Conversation going. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Sunday Live with Manya Kudirwa. My name is Nompilo Smanje, and I use this platform to share information about so many emerging issues and other conversations which I think are very important for our time. And today is Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to everyone. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. I hope you had a moment to rest. I hope you had a moment to celebrate. I hope you were celebrated and appreciated. And if not, I hope you know that mamas like me out here are celebrating you, and we appreciate you and we see you. I also allowed myself to just slow down today and let my family take care of me, which is why we're having this conversation quite late. And like I said earlier, I want us to talk about postpartum eclampsia, which is a condition that I also had following my pregnancy. And one thing that I want to highlight is that I'm not a medical practitioner, and this is not medical advice. And this is merely an experience sharing to raise awareness about some of the conditions that affect women and young mothers. So most people are familiar with the condition that is called pre-eclampsia. And by pre, obviously, some of you can tell that pre means before. So this is a condition that happens before birth, before you give birth to a child. And normally with preeclampsia, you'd find that you would have like swollen feet, and your blood pressure also shoots up. You have high blood pressure. So when you have preeclampsia, also your pregnancy will be called a high risk pregnancy, right? So I had what is called postpartum eclampsia. So mine was eclampsia that I had after I'd already given birth to my child. So if you joined the other videos that I've done before, you will know that I eventually gave birth to my baby through a cesarean section, which meant that I was obviously in the hospital for at least 3 days for recovery before I went home. And then after I'd gone home, I think I stayed home for a few days. And then one night, the baby was crying so much. I struggled to sleep that night. I remember my husband was trying to help me with the baby. She was awake for a long time. She was crying. I was struggling to soothe her. That night, I remember I was trying to sing for her. I prayed. But yeah, it was really one of those very difficult nights. So I was awake, I think, until around 2 a.m. And I was struggling to put the baby to sleep. Both of us were struggling to put the baby to sleep. And at that time, I started also feeling terrible headaches. Actually, I'd had these headaches even before that particular day. These were headaches that I had had even post the C-section. I'd had these headaches. So that night, the headaches were just so terrible. I woke up and I was trying to do coffee, just to trying to help myself manage, the headaches. I tried making coffee, but the headaches would just not go away. So on that particular night, I had terrible headaches. I was struggling to put the baby to sleep. I just had so much pressure. Obviously, I didn't sleep very well. And then eventually, we managed to sleep, because obviously when I was up with my husband as well. Eventually, I did manage to sleep at some point. But the next thing that I remember is that I woke up and I was already in the intensive care unit at Mater Dei Hospital. And I remember before I'd gone to sleep, I was reciting Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd. I recited that entire psalm that evening, that early morning. Around the AMs, I was reciting that verse. That is the last thing that I remember. And the next thing, I woke up and I was in the ICU. And actually, from what I'd been told, I'd been in the ICU for over 24 hours. So what actually transpired, and this is a narrative that was shared with me by my husband, who also happens to be a doctor, currently specializing in otorhinolaryngology, being that that night, when I finally went to bed, I actually started having seizures, terrible seizures. And my family called an ambulance to come and get me. When they called that ambulance as well, my husband was also trying to just help me to manage the situation. But also it seems that when I was having these seizures, I also bit my tongue during that time. So my tongue was swollen, and I think I was also struggling to breathe. Anyway, so I had these terrible seizures. And then when the ambulance came also, I had another seizure in the ambulance. And then when we got to Mater Day, my gynecologist was called, and he took a look at me and he suggested that I should go into the general ward. At this time, I think he also thought that they had managed the situation. But unfortunately, I had another seizure as well while in the casualty at Mater Day Hospital. So I think in total, in a very short space of time, I had 3 terrible seizures because of postpartum eclampsia. And this is a condition that I did not know before. And this is a condition that I only learned of after I had experienced it. And from what I have been reading about this condition, actually postpartum eclampsia is a very critical complication. And it has played a major role in about 16% of maternal deaths in sub-Saharan Africa. So it's actually, not only is it a rare condition, it's also quite a dangerous condition, postpartum eclampsia. So I only started reading about it after I had experienced it, because most people know about pre-eclampsia, which is when you have high blood pressure during pregnancy, but not many people know about this postpartum eclampsia that happens after you've given birth. And actually it can happen even within like a week after you've given birth, and it also happens as a complication of a cesarean section. And from my reading, I understand also that it affects young mothers, and it also affects people that have limited prenatal care. Fortunately for me, I had hands-on prenatal care. I had my gyne that we were seeing every month. I had regular checkups. I was checking my weight. I was checking my blood pressure. So I did have the best specialist care during my pregnancy. But still, I had this postpartum eclampsia. And this was a near-death experience. Like I said, I had terrible seizures. And I had to be admitted in the ICU at Mater Day. And during this time also, it meant I had to be separated from my child. Because, you know, the ICU is also a space where people are in a critical condition. There are patients that are in critical condition. And as a result, they could not allow my baby, who was just under a week, to be joining me in the ICU. So imagine you are a young mother, first-time mother. You've just given birth. Your child is barely a week old. And you have to be admitted in the ICU and separated from your baby. This is what I went through as a result of postpartum eclampsia. So what happens is that actually my blood pressure had shot up, which probably also resulted in these seizures that I had. So hypertension and seizures, they're all part of postpartum eclampsia, and it can even lead to death. It can also lead even to multi-organ failure. So during that time, I was in the ICU for a week. And during that time, I was also getting, I think it's called magnesium sulfate, to manage the seizures. And then I was also put on blood pressure, BP medication, hypertension medication, to also manage my blood pressure that had shot up. It was terrible. I think at one time it was like 140 over 95 or something along those lines. So my blood pressure was quite high. It was a near-death experience. And I only learned of this condition after going through it. And I think it got me thinking, how many other people have gone through this situation? And I'll tell you a funny story. When I had these seizures, my mother was still there with us. My mother-in-law was still there with us. And I am told that both our moms started praying. When I started having seizures, they started praying. And I think they were also thinking that maybe I was under some demonic attack of sorts. And my husband had to stand on business and say, can you please give her space? She's having a seizure. Can somebody call an ambulance? So imagine if a young mother were to go through that without a doctor in the house and without anyone who is aware of such conditions, that after birth, women can have such a condition called postpartum eclampsia, where they can have seizures. Imagine someone in a rural or marginalized community who cannot even access an ambulance, who could not even access specialized care the way I could. It could be detrimental. Like I said, from the statistics and from my reading, it has actually contributed to maternal deaths in sub-Saharan Africa. So I just wanted to take a few minutes today on this Sunday Live with Manya Kudirwa to just share this experience and say, We have something called postpartum eclampsia, which affects women after they've given birth. And it's very important that we raise awareness about this condition, and also that we ensure that especially people in rural and marginalized communities, women in rural and marginalized communities, are made aware of such potential complications, and that also our system allows, especially our health system, that it makes the necessary arrangements to facilitate for the necessary care in the event of such a condition. And I want to highlight also, this is particularly important, to highlight that, I saw a post quite recently where a woman was sharing, I think this is someone from Nigeria who was sharing that after she had given birth, I think because she's an orphan or something along those lines, obviously she does not have a mother who could come and help her. So they have this tradition where when a woman gives birth, her mother moves in with them to help take care of the child. So because she could not have a mother come through, it was her mother-in-law who came through. And now the husband was now suggesting that, she should help with some work around the house. Help with some work because, he wanted to protect his ego. He didn't want his mother to see him working in the house, cooking and cleaning. But this is a woman who had just given birth like 4 days earlier. So you find that within our culture, there are so many scenarios where women who have just given birth are not receiving the necessary care and support that they need, which can also lead to some of the complications that arise even from C-sections. For example, if the wound is not even healed and a lady is being expected to do heavy work, to carry heavy things, that can also affect even the healing of that suture, of that wound, right? But also, just taking care of the child, handling all the hormonal changes, handling, all the pressure of raising another human being, breastfeeding a child, while at the same time being expected to take care of the broader family, can equally affect the health of women. And I think I've not read into it yet, but I believe it can also result in even further detrimental complications. But the complication I wanted to talk about today is called postpartum eclampsia. To say there is such a condition, it's a critical complication. It's also quite a rare condition. And when I had that condition, I think one of the things you start asking yourself is, why me? And I think that is why also I'm having this conversation. And now I've decided to start sharing more about my experiences around pregnancy and motherhood. Because when I had such an experience where I had that rare condition, my initial instinct was, why me? But after reflecting on it, now my thinking is, I've gone through this and I've survived. Glory be to God. Now I need to share more and speak more about my experience, not only to testify of the goodness of God, but also to make sure that others are aware of this condition called postpartum eclampsia. So like I said earlier, I had seizures, I had hypertension. So actually, after I was discharged from the ICU, I stayed there for a week. After I was discharged, I was still on hypertensive medication for about a month. My blood pressure also was being checked on a daily basis. So I even bought a machine to check my blood pressure every day to make sure that, my blood pressure was managed. So we're monitoring and documenting my blood pressure for about a month from the time when I had postpartum eclampsia. And at the time, I was not only being attended to by my gynae. I mean, this was a complication arising from a gynae procedure because I had given birth. And then as a result of that procedure, I ended up having postpartum eclampsia with, headaches, seizures, and hypertension. But I also received care from a specialist physician. Shout out to Dr. Drawin Wulawai as well. He was the one who was taking care of me. So I also had my physician coming in. He was the one actually who was primarily in charge of managing my postpartum eclampsia, but also my gynae was coming to check in on me as well. Even the anesthetist also who did my C-section was also coming to check in on me. So I was very lucky to have private 24/7 care at the time when I had postpartum eclampsia. But I'm sharing this to say there are others who might not have such care. But I think it's important that we raise awareness about the existence of these conditions, especially also even when you are tempted to think, I had a low-risk pregnancy, so what can happen to me? It's good to just have all the information with you. Because I also had a low-risk pregnancy. My weight was great. I never had any issues with high blood pressure until after I started experiencing these headaches and eventually started having seizures, right? So it's something just to think about and something to know that it can happen. People should not rush to start casting out demons and praying. When you have seizures, it's best to just call an ambulance and ensure that a young mother receives the necessary care that they need in the event of seizures. And I remember after I had recovered from that experience, I then had a chat with my doctor, and he said to me, my friend, do you know that was a 50-50 situation? Like, I could have died from that complication. It has resulted in maternal deaths before in sub-Saharan Africa. So it's not unusual that a person can die from postpartum eclampsia. It's very possible. And I was lucky, thanks be to God, that I survived the experience. And I just wanted to use this time in this platform to share that there is such an experience, and we need to raise more awareness around it. To just make sure that people know about it, and also that, they get the necessary medical care that they need in the event of such a situation. Today is Mother's Day. So happy Mother's Day again. I celebrate this day so much, not only because it's a day, when I celebrated this day last year, I just had a baby, but also because that was a time also when I realized that I had been given another lease at life. So I'm not just celebrating motherhood, I'm also celebrating life, because through the entire experience of giving birth to a child and now raising a child, I had a serious complication that could have resulted in death. But I'm here celebrating Mother's Day with everybody. So I'm truly grateful. And I took this day to just wind down and to let my family take care of me, to let my family spoil me. Because it's also important. I know that as mothers, sometimes we are used to being in charge, to handling everything. We want to run the show. On a day like this, it's a good day to just chill. It's a good day to just relax and let the family take care of you. Let your family appreciate you. Because I think as Black women, we have a tendency, of wanting to be strong, wanting to carry everything, wanting to be in charge of everything. And I think on a day like this, on Mother's Day, it's a good day to just relax. Being a mother is a job on its own. Quite recently, people were talking about unpaid care work. Parenting, especially for mothers, there's so much unpaid care work involved in parenting. So moms, you are doing an incredible job. And on this day, I hope you allowed yourselves to just relax and let your family take care of you and let your family appreciate you. And I know that there are mothers out there who also do not have the privilege of being taken care of. And I want to share with those mothers that, stay strong, moms, stay strong, and we see you. And whenever the community can support you, definitely would be happy to support you. So this was going to be a quick one just to talk about postpartum eclampsia. And of course, I remain available to answer any questions. I'm also widely reading about this complication. So I'll be reading more about it and also sharing any information that I come across. I see there's Tafadzwa who wants to join. I don't know, Tafadzwa, do you want to join? I'm not seeing you anymore. But anyway, thank you so much, guys, for joining. I know it's late. I just wanted us to have a quick conversation. If you have any questions, if you want to share any experiences, feel free to drop them in the chat, in the comment section. I am going also to be thinking about some doctors that I can reach out to ask them also to come through and address some of the conversations we've been having from a professional standpoint, because my insights are more from a personal standpoint. But I want to make sure that we use this platform also to engage others that can provide professional insights